Hello everyone, and welcome to today's chess game analysis. This was the most recent game which I uploaded, playing Diwakar as white, and yeah, let's have a look at this game. So this was a 90-minute time control, pretty long game. I think I used all my time because I ended up losing on time, and my opponent I think only used perhaps 30 or 40 minutes of his time, so yeah, it was a pretty humiliating defeat, but I guess that's how you learn. So let's have a look at the game anyway and what happened and where it went wrong for me. So starts out with the king's pawn opening with e4, and we saw the Scandinavian defense with d5. Takes, it doesn't actually, isn't necessarily named, I don't think, but this is usually when there's any sort of, well, technically it's not a gambit because it's defended by the queen, but you know, these sort of positions are usually kind of like accepted, declined sorts of thing. So this is sort of like the accepted line, if you like, but certainly the most common move and is the recommended move. So queen takes is the only piece that can actually recapture, and then it sort of provokes knight c3, which is played. And he didn't know the theory of the, at least in the initial part of the opening, which was interesting, but it still played the best moves, or one of the best moves in this position, that queen to d8. So this is the Mises Kotrick, I think that's how it's pronounced, variation. And yeah, I've played this before actually against the chess engine, where the engine actually played a6, very strange move in that game. But yeah, queen to d8, which is certainly one of the best options. And now it sort of suggests that white can sort of play knight to f3. I found a different move which was of some concern after, but it seems that it's fine. There's no problem here, because obviously this piece is now, you know, moving from a defended position to an undefended position, but it is active here. But the computer says this is all fine. My opponent played the top move, as was in most of the case, with knight to f6. And here it says I can just develop this right away. I was concerned with a bishop landing on g4, but I mean, it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. Actually, this seems fine for white, apparently. Knight to e5. This looks very similar to the Legal's mate, actually. Very interesting. So I'm guessing if we take, maybe announce, yeah, this is mate. So I didn't even notice this. So this is that's quite incredible, but I didn't notice that. So to sort of prevent this idea, instead of playing knight f3 first, I played h3, which is an okay move, but it's sort of wasting a tempo really. But obviously it does stop the black pieces from going to the g4 square. Not that it was necessary, but there you go. So yeah, not the worst move ever, but not ideal. I mean, it kind of weakens the king side, so it's kind of like, well, where do you put the king now? Obviously, I do have the option later after moving these pieces here of castling on queen side potentially. So we saw e6. So black is, you know, black's not going to be moving the bishop to any of these squares. So e6, just controlling d5, sort of the priority, if you like, for black for the moment. Here d4, which is what I played, which was best. And in this position after d4, I was a bit concerned with bishop b4, sort of same idea, pinning pieces here, but it seems that it's not something to be too concerned about. I mean, here obviously the d pawn is being defended only by the queen, so if we break the pin, for example, with a move like bishop to d2, then queen takes d4, and you know, black wins a pawn. So a little bit awkward, but it says just knight f3, which is what I played. And this is fine. I could potentially consider playing bishop to d2 here. And now castles for black is the best option. Knight to c6 was played, and it's yeah, not the end is not over enamoured by this move. It says now that for similar reasons that white and then black should castle, so black essentially will be castling next move instead now. But yeah, this pin turns out to be rather annoying later on, and we'll see exactly what happens there. But obviously now we've got two attackers, two defenders on the D pawn. In hindsight, castling probably would have been better considering what happened in this game. I did try and play a rather creative move here with queen to d3, just defending my bishop, you know, developing my queen towards the centre of the board. And if I am going to castle queenside, I need to move those pieces anyway. So certainly an interesting move. And again, here it says black should castle, but I think knight a5 actually, yeah, knight a5 is a move as well. So knight a5 is what occurred, and obviously this hits the bishop. Now with the queen here, obviously the bishop can't retreat anywhere. So it's sort of one of those situations where, you know, is black going to be taking this bishop, and that's going to be good for black, sort of thing. So it suggests a3 rather forcing the issue. I think the idea is just to force the bishop to capture. Otherwise the bishop sort of has to go somewhere, and the knight's sort of at the moment left on the side of the board undefended. But you know, white doesn't want to keep this pin here. I just developed my piece to bishop to g5, and again it says that castling is best. We saw h6, and now I think bishop takes or bishop h4 are both good options. I play bishop h4, keeping the pin on the knight on f6, and again the computer's really saying you need to castle here. Obviously I do have the option of castling queenside on my next move. Sorry, yeah, this is for black. So castling from black side and then castling queenside for white is recommended. So that's the computer line. And then here an interesting move, c5, which we both agreed in the game was, you know, rather a good move. I think he felt that it was a little bit unsound. And the computer line is, I haven't actually looked at this yet, but castles, what's happening here? Knight takes c4, so we're taking that bishop, and I didn't actually look to see if, yeah, queen takes c4 was the move. So we get these trades, and it's suggesting c4, so an interesting way of giving up the pawn. It looks like black can't defend this pawn and would rather the recapture be occurring this way, and then queen d5. So that's an interesting line. So that's just to show the suggested line there. I mean, the computer evaluation here is that it's good for white. Not 100% sure why. Again, haven't really looked at the line in so much detail yet. If we just go back, so after c5, you'll notice that c6 can't be. It's kind of harder to defend. You can't really put a piece apart from the knight. You can't really put a piece on here. You can't put a pawn here. So after c5, I put in this check, bishop d7, and you'd notice actually before that white has all the pieces out and black doesn't. And this was something that was my opponent highlighted to me in the game, is that in this position, again, it suggests just castle. So every move's like white needs to castle, etc. And after takes here and queen takes, it's kind of like black's development's done. But the trouble was, in this position, it's very difficult to sort of figure out what's going on. Everything's sort of being attacked. Very complicated position. It looks like d takes c5 is a move as well, which is interesting. Okay, it was at depth 26, so later depths it says that castling is good. So yeah, takes anyway, which is no tactical blunder or anything, but it suggests that it's kind of white's advantage is diminished a little after this. And then in this position, this is where I made the main mistake. So we've got the bishop here on h4, which is currently defended by the knight, and the pawn. So the pawns are being attacked by both the queen and this c5 pawn here. And in this position I played knight e5, One thing I could look at, I don't know, I don't think this is very good actually, but queen to b5. Oh, that would be terrible apparently. So what happened? Oh, of course the pin. So the c knight is pinned. There was a later position where queen b5 was good. I hope I could stop putting moves on the board. So yeah, knight e5. I had some ideas with in the game. Unfortunately, obviously, it hangs this pawn, which is also defending this knight. So the knight was sort of on a good square. It's sort of, you know, looking at c6, and the queen on d7. And the queen does have to move, but obviously it comes with a capture. So I expected a different move. I expected some other queen move, which would probably be good for white. But obviously after this, now the knight and the bishop are both attacked. So it actually suggests here that bishop takes would have been best, which was a move I looked at, but I thought after bishop here takes, this was better for black. We just take this bishop, and then we get this queen trade. So this is the suggested line, g takes, and then the knight's attack, we can move it. And this would be minus 1.7, approximately. There's that line. Which was, I think, a little bit better. I played knight to f3, so, you know, just admitting my mistake. At least my bishop's defended. In hindsight, I probably should have taken this knight earlier. Maybe even immediately after queen takes. Yeah. So here we see actually is suggested as the top move. Now with the queen no longer on d8. So there's the only one thing that was good about that check with the bishop. Now bishop takes f6 is quite a good move apparently, because it sort of breaks up these pawns here. I mean, black has pawns in the centre of the board, but they are somewhat easier to attack, I think. So it says this is fine for white. But yeah, knight e5, just dropping a pawn basically. And it suggests here queen trade, but my opponent played this check, which I think I missed because my knight was pinned, so I didn't actually look at this one. I think because my queen was covering it, but obviously it is defended by this knight, at least for the moment. You know, again, another reason why bishop takes might have been good. Just, you know, that wouldn't be possible. And then it says here king d1 would be better. I blocked with my queen, which the computer doesn't like. And then takes. It says that bishop takes would have been perhaps a little bit more accurate. Oh, it is coming up actually now with queen takes e2. So we saw this. Yeah, king takes, bishop takes c3, so sort of breaking up white's pawns, which can be a problem in the endgame, because obviously these pawns can't defend each other. And then knight to d5 is the top move. This move, well, most moves are good really, no real blunders here. Knight to e4 with obviously attacking the c3 pawn here. And now it says here I should have played my rook to e1, sort of x-raying this knight on e4, getting my rook doing something. I mean, there are open files on the B and the D file that would potentially be useful. So this line is actually allowing this check and then king f1, so I think the idea is to sort of tuck the king away like this, and it says this is the best way for white to actually continue here. But I mean, it's already pretty bad. At -3, it's already pretty lost really, positionally. But I think it was very lost after a few more moves. So I played king to d3, which is not really ideal because I'm sort of setting my king up to be checked here. But you know, I didn't want these pawns just to drop off the board, and then black can sort of start pushing. So it's difficult really. And then my opponent played the best move here with f5, just defending this knight because obviously it was attacked. And then the computer doesn't like my next move, so again here it likes the idea of bringing this rook in. So I played g4 with the idea of removing the defender of the knight. And then I think, as I expected, we got this g5 move. So I was expecting, black is advancing the majority of pawns on the king side centre. And it says bishop g3. I just play takes, which I think is actually okay. I mean, unfortunately after g4 my position's losing, but this is a reasonable decision. So now the idea is if you take the bishop, I can take the knight. So black just recaptures, and now bishop to g3. So again, black could, if he wanted, just take my bishop here, I think. Yeah, that would be possible. So it says castles for black. I think getting the king off of this square is something, getting these rooks doing something, because these rooks at the moment for black are not really doing anything. I had sort of ideas of breaking through on this side, but then it's kind of like to whose effect is that? I mean, when the king is here blocking the connection of the rooks, it's generally a advantage for the side where it has the rooks connected. And then c4 check, which was interesting. I think I expected a different move in this position actually. But yeah, c4 check. Well, yeah, castling would have been better, followed by king e2, and it says that black's super winning. But c4 is like -4, so it's still pretty bad. I mean, you get the impression really from this bar. I think that's probably the best way you can see that black's pretty much winning. King e2 really is forced. I think, yeah, king d3, king e3 is not possible because, well, actually it's interesting. It says just castles queenside, but I think black can black do this? Yeah. Oh no, apparently not. That's interesting. So I think I overlooked that. So I could have actually played king e3 here, apparently. The idea is if f4, yeah, king takes e4, black, the white king's active. So I think I overlooked this pawn. Once it moves, it's no longer defending the knight. So, but it seems that king e2 was best anyway, which is what I played. And then we got this check here, king f1, which was best. F4, which came as expected. I played the best move here, which was good. The trouble you see of this bishop is sort of trapped now. It really can't do anything. It's blocked by this pawn. I've got to move this knight. So, these pawns here are really doing a good job at making my bishop crap, basically. Which is one of the reasons that white is losing here. But I played the best move, rook e1. Obviously, the other rook was impossible. Check. King d7. King d8. King d7 would have been better. Yeah, king d7 would have been better, but king to d8. And then here it says this is the position where I should move my bishop. Just retreat it at this point. Obviously, with the check, black couldn't take this bishop. But now, after rook e5, the idea is that if you take the bishop, I take the knight. So like this, and this is relatively okay for white. Unfortunately, I overlooked the move knight c6, and now my rook and my bishop are both attacked simultaneously, so unfortunately I'm going to be losing one of them. The rook is much more valuable than the bishop in this particular situation. It suggests the best move is actually bishop takes, which temporarily defends this, so it actually says you should take the bishop here, not the rook. I think if this, then we have this nice double attack on the knight and the rook, which was something I looked at in the game, actually. Which was interesting. So yeah, bishop takes was actually best, which is again something I looked at, but I ended up just playing my rook to f5 in the end. But yeah, not a good position for white here. So obviously losing my bishop. And it says just h4 for white. I just took. I don't think it really matters too much. And then obviously with the time trouble issues, it didn't really matter too much what's going on in this position, so just king to g2. I think king to g2 was obviously necessary. I just put in this check, obviously with this knight move. The d5 square wasn't defended, but I think really at this point it was not really coming with any concrete ideas. This was rather helping black's position. Black's rooks are now connected, and black's up a piece, so very good position for black. So just knight e5 is what I chucked in. and then obviously this check here, king up, and then knight takes h1 obviously would have been best, but black took this, and I just took black defends the knight, and it says h4, rook f1 is the best move. At least the rooks are relatively active. I mean, black's got a bad piece here, but you know it's kind of irrelevant at this point with the situation. And yeah, these are just time trouble moves, so just takes, and I think I just had 1 second. So, but in any case, losing on time. But even in this position, it's just totally losing for black really. I mean, -7 is fairly conclusively lost. So, but yeah, very good game from my opponent, and some interesting ideas and lines. Very complicated tactics. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed that, and if you don't play chess, have learned something from it. And yeah, thanks for watching.